And we have our first paper, development of the professional competence of bachelors in preschool education through online interaction, and presenter Tatiana Holovatenko. Please, can you share your screen?
Yes, just a moment. Dear colleagues, can you see the slides?
Yes.
All right. Greetings to everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present at this conference. And I'd like to start by introducing our team. Our team consists of Tatiana Ponomarenko, Olena Kovalenko, Tatiana Shankar, Larissa Grashenko, and me, Tatiana Holovatenko. We are scholars from Boris Grynchenko Kyiv University, and today we'd like to present preliminary results of the research on development of the professional competence of bachelors in preschool education through online interaction. Let me start this presentation with theoretical grounding of this research, which covers two topics. The first one is supporting the play activities of preschool children and the formation of professional competence of bachelors of preschool education in online setting. And these topics cover some subtopics, such as the gamification of preschoolers' activities, which is really important when we are talking about preparing pre-service teachers, and cultural literacy. When we are talking about cultural literacy, we're talking about teaching some basic notions about the world to preschoolers, and how to support play activities teaching cultural literacy for preschool children. And the next thread of research that was identified is transforming children's play practices to develop them. And in terms of the second group of research that we have analyzed, these are preschoolers' pattern of technology usage, and we identify that it's important for preschool teachers to have a high level of digital proficiency and know how to support the child's development by means of ICT. And at the same time, it's also important for instructors to know how preschoolers use technology in their families to bridge the gap between various patterns used by children in different settings. According to scholars, majority of preschool children use technology for some educational activities under the supervision of adults in non-educational activities such as drawings as well. And as a result, it is important for preschool teachers to develop diverse repertoire of gamified activities using ICT for their learners. And authors believe that ICT has the potential not only for overall child development, but to transform children's play activities in particular. We also identified research that was concerned with formative assessment of preschool teachers when preparing them to work with preschool children and use gamified activities. And various ways of formative assessment, including games, were also an important thread of our research. And the last but not the least, in terms of formation of professional competence, was the technological and pedagogical knowledge that we are going to form in pre-service teachers that are going to work with preschool children. And based on this theoretical grounding, we also identify that it's really important to talk about the quality of training in terms of ICT, and in terms of this, and based on the previous literature review and theoretical grounding, the authors are guided by their wish to prove the feasibility and positive impact of using ICT in online interaction to form students' competence in supporting the play activities of children of early and preschool age, on the example of workshop on play activities course introduced in Boris Grynchenko Kyiv University for bachelor students. And the research questions that we set up for this research are: what is students' readiness to develop the play competence for preschool children? What are the attitudes of students to incorporating various tools of online interaction, and what tools do they prefer using? And what services do students usually use during online interaction? We were guided by these research questions. We designed a mixed method study, which incorporated a quantitative methodology, including surveying pre-service elementary school teachers. And the paper is also grounded in the qualitative methodology through the analysis of interviews of preschool teachers and pre-service teachers working in kindergarten. And we observed students during their practical training in kindergartens. And in particular, we focused on how students supported children's play. And the data obtained from the observation indicate that 85% of students know the types of children's play and characteristics of children's plays in different ages. It's around 78% of participants. The methods and techniques of supporting children's play activities, it's around 64% of participants. And they also have recommendations, they know recommendations of educational programs for children's play in different age. However, not all students can apply their theoretical knowledge into practice. And during the pre-test, we identified as a challenge for students. The next challenge that students had was demonstrating good skills of organizing and conducting outdoor games with various levels of activity for children, some didactic games and activities from different sections of the curriculum. However, the plot was rather poor and it was drawn from students' childhood experiences. However, modern preschool children have different childhood, different characters, different games that they like. So there was this gap that we identified as a challenge for students. And the most difficult thing for students was to support story-based role-playing and creative games of children. Young children suggested some students to play the roles of dad, grandmother, dog, or parrot. However, the unwillingness and reluctance of a number of students to play along with the children and to take on the offered roles have actually led to stopping the game at this stage. And students explain their reluctance in playing alone with children at their request by noticing that, well, you have to be an actor. This is the quote from their answers in the interviews. So we identified insufficient immersion in the children's play as one of the challenges that students experienced during the pre-test. And also after COVID and lockdown, students have been studying online, and distance learning is also one of the challenge for them. We are going to talk about it in more details a little on the next slides. The authors have identified the following criteria and indicators of students' preparedness for the formation of play competence in preschool children. These are the motivation and emotional criteria, and the indicators for this criteria is the motivation to use play as the main type of activity of children, tolerance to the child's opinion and replicating lived experiences in games, emotionally correct reaction to changes in the rules of the game and behavior of the child, motivation to demonstrate values of group solidarity when playing games, emotional support of game activities, responsible attitude to children's choice and performance of the role, and readiness to reflect on the game. Some of the indicators for a cognitive criteria were identified as knowledge about various types, names of games and their content, understanding actions in creative games and rule-based games, ability to involve children in a common game, the formation of role-based ways of behavior in games, and identifying reasons and consequences of successful and unsuccessful games. The last criteria that we identified was the action-based criteria, and some of the indicators were the ability to apply methodological tools of supporting game activities to preschool children, demonstrating creativity, critical and logical thinking ability to make non-standard decisions in various situations in games, and then following rules of role play, like admitting, decision-making, equity, support, and also creative usage of the game environment and designing the game field. Overall, the results of the ability of students to form play competence of preschool children during the pre-test were the following. 43% of participants demonstrated insufficient level, 46% of respondents demonstrated sufficient level, and 11% of respondents demonstrated high level of their readiness to form game competence of preschool children. Due to Russian full-scale invasion in Ukraine, we have been living and studying under the state of delayed danger for 2 consecutive years and being continuously exposed to the possibility of bombing and shelling. And as a result, the educational process at the Hrynchenko University is being conducted online. The scope of pre-test was also guided by our attempt to identify attitude of students towards incorporating various tools of online interaction, as well as finding out which services students usually use during online interaction. And to answer this research question, we use such research methods as interview, survey, and analysis of student artifacts. In the response to the first question of the survey, what are the digital tools that you think are most helpful for learning our course and why? 86% of respondents mentioned learning apps, Genially, Flippity, Padlet, and Kahoot. And 15% of students replied with GoAnimate, Genially, and Flippity. When justifying their answers, students prioritize the user-friendliness of the interface and free-of-charge usage of tools, the availability and scope of usable material, as well as bright photos and videos provided to incorporate in children's games. On this slide, you can see that students still identify that they had challenges with some of the tools mentioned. And to overcome these challenges, there was an intervention that we developed in terms of this study. And a workshop on children's play activities was designed as an intervention. This is a 6-credit course which covers 180 hours of studying, and it was designed specifically to address the challenges that we identified in the pre-test. Let me briefly tell you about this course. It is taught using online resources provided by the university. Each student has their personal student account in Boris Hrynchenko Kyiv University, and the e-learning system on the Moodle platform hosts a developed e-learning course named Workshop on Children's Play Activities. The developed mobile application to the system allows you to do and submit the tasks offline, and online classes are organized using the services such as Google Meet for Education, Google Chat, Google Hangouts, Google Classroom, WebEx Enterprise, and Zoom. To enhance the user experience and educational experience of students within this course, the information block of the e-learning course contains a syllabus, assessment criteria for each type of task, a course map, a glossary, recommended sources, including internet resources. And taking into account the results of the pre-test of the experiment, we improved the content of the educational component of this course by enhancing it with a greater variety of digital ICT tools. And we focused our attention on students' importance of pedagogical support of preschool children's games, as opposed to outdated concept of leadership in children's games. Pedagogical support is aligned with person-oriented approach in organizing educational interaction with children. Digital tools were implemented in this e-learning course I mentioned on this slide. So if you allow me, I will not mention them as you can see them. And let me also tell you about one more component of this intervention, which happened in the ICR classroom. To develop information in digital subject methodological competencies of participants, the Center of Innovative Educational Technologies, called ICR Classroom, was created within our faculty. Students work there as a part of studying the educational component workshop on children's play activities. And there are 3 working zones in this class. It's STEM lab, IT lab, and VR zone, creating opportunities for the use of innovative teaching methods such as inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, and problem-based learning. Integrated learning and competence approach in implementing elements of STEM education in play activities for preschool teachers, and digital tools for accompanying play activities, as well as 5E research learning model, technologies of flipped classroom and blended learning. For example, when studying the topic play of young children and its pedagogical support, we use VR Zone to teach pre-service teachers using virtual and augmented reality. While working with virtual and augmented reality, students use textbooks and manuals with built-in mini lessons, explore the development of play activities of young children, and game attributes for young children. In IT lab, we used it as a zone of working with information technologies, allowing students to create a team project play space for young children. When they developed a project plan and presentation materials about this project, they also improved their ICT and digital skills. While studying the module peculiarities of organizing various types of games for preschool children in the STEM lab zone, students create content of online games for preschool children in the digital space. Using the existing MakeBlock laboratory, robotics, STEM classroom kit, and bot, students created engaging and exciting games for direct interaction for preschoolers. And overall, the results of the ability of students to form play competence of preschool and early childhood children, the post-test showed that 9% of students demonstrated insufficient level, 68% of respondents demonstrated sufficient level, and 23% of pre-service teachers have demonstrated a high level. And the data and the results of pre-test and post-test are presented on the slide. So the post-test showed us that using ICT in online instruction has a lot of benefits for students, and among them are motivating students, raising the development of their professional competence, and raising the quality of teacher training. However, in this study, there are some limitations that should be discussed. And among the limitations of this are the sample. The second limitation is connected to the surveying tool because the data collection depends on participants' understanding of statements and their sincerity in answers. And however, to mitigate this effect of the limitation, a qualitative method was employed, and we interviewed students and we observed them working with students. Dear colleagues, thank you for your attention and welcome to discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any questions, please? If you don't have, oh, maybe I have a question. As I understand, you have like 2 parts in your work. You have work with preschool children, and you have some work with students that use different tools. Is it correct?
Yes, let me clarify this one for you. So we prepare pre-service teachers. So they are students at our university, and then they go to kindergartens and they implement everything that we taught them in kindergartens. They organize play activities of kindergarten children for play activities of preschool teachers. Well, sorry, preschoolers.
Yes, but so, I mean, you have this sequence of different tools that they are using, like Google Meets, Kahoot, Mentimeter. So are they really uses this in preschool, kindergarten, or they just know about this tool? So what's the role of this long sequence of different tools? How they use it, or how you estimate their usage of these tools?
Oh, so we defined it as a complex approach. So first we cascaded the knowledge. We taught pre-service teachers, university students, how to use these resources. And after that, they chose resources that they want to use with their kindergarten students. So they didn't use Google Meet. However, they used different services such as learning apps, such as Canva, to organize the game with their kindergarten students. So they had to choose it.
Well, maybe it's suggestions that when you write about qualities, and you need to mention what tools were used, so we can understand how different tools are have different impact of the educational process. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your suggestion.
Any other questions? Okay, maybe another question. What's the size of your data when you work with children? What size of the group, and how many actually these teachers you made a survey of?
Yes, the number of participants in this pre-test and post-test were 68.
68 students, yes?
68 university students that are pre-service teachers.
And they work with one group each or something?
When they have their practical training in kindergartens, then we observe them working with preschoolers. So
okay.
there were, yeah, these were 68 students in total, and then they were divided into smaller groups because this is the university system. When they go to practical training, the groups are really small, like 6 students or even less, and then they organize play activities in kindergartens.
And maybe you have suggestion, or as a result, what your recommended combination to use in the kindergarten? What combination of tools, at your opinion, gives the best result?
Yes, based on our research, we identified that suggesting pre-service teachers with a list of resources does not work, because they have to have the freedom of choice and creativity to choose the resources that they feel are most effective to reach their goal. That is why we showed them a great variety of resources in the intervention course, and they had to think about which resources work best in their own setting with their age group of preschoolers and with the learning objectives that they set. So we focus on creativity of our students rather than giving them a list of resources to use.
Okay, yes, it's a good approach, but at the end of the day, you need to measure to know what was the what was the best combination. So I recommend you. Oh, sorry. I recommend you to measure this process so you can analyze it later.
Thank you. So yes, we will work on this in our next researches, and in this one we just wanted to identify the readiness of students to support play activities using ICT. So yeah, we'll definitely think about this as a prospect for our next research.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. If no other questions, then we can proceed to our next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have Pavel Plaskura. I hope I spelled it correct. Design and implementation of a didactic process based on simulation.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Greetings from Poland. Give me a moment. No, I can't share. Okay, I see that you can see my presentation. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yes. Please start your presentation.
Title of my presentation is Design of and Implementation of Didactic Process Based on Simulation. And my presentation consists of several parts. Introduction, and we have practical programs, the aim of the work, theoretical backgrounds, practical implementation of the system, competency-oriented decomposition, multiply intelligences and achievement profiling, results and discussion, simulation of achievements and workload, design based on simulation of achievements and workload, discussion, and I will conclude. If you will have any questions, I have extra slides to explain some aspects of my work. First of all, we have to say that the design of highly efficient didactical processes is still an unresolved problem due to several problems. First is incorrect content design causing learning problems. We have such a theory, cognitive load theory, is cognitive overload, a large amount of details, lack of knowledge structure, difficulties with interdisciplinary connections. I would say that this is a great discussion in Poland started, that the students cannot connect, I would say, dots or points from different fields of knowledge. Is a great problem in Poland. And the second problem is incorrect scheduling, incorrect schedule. Too large time intervals between classes can cause forgetfulness because it is beyond the limit of forgetting. Third, the different detection of repetition of similar issues within different courses. And the reason is very often lack of teacher cooperation. And the fourth one, difficulties or lack of use of efficiency improvement techniques, for example, including short breaks during classes or short sessions. You can find interesting information in literature, which is given at the bottom of the screen. The aim of the work is to present the author's model for designing and conducting the didactic process based on competency decomposition, which incorporates two main theories and my works. First theory of multiple intelligences, Bloom's taxonomy, and design and developed by me techniques for modeling and simulation of the didactical process. Short history, why I started to take into account this, why I started research on design of didactic processes, how it started. It started after post-war research, after Second World War, when systematic training programs, later called instructional systems design, was developed by the US Army. And many models were developed, including the general ADDIE model. ADDIE means analysis, design, development, implement and evaluate, which consists of 5 phases: analysis of training requirements and needs, definition of education and training requirements, development of objective tests, planning, creating and validating training, conducting and evaluation of training. And the main goal of ADDIE process is effective teaching. And I want to show you such a model, which is modified by me. In the center of the figure 1, you have the model. It consists of 5 phases: analysis, design, development, implementation, and in the center is evaluation. And you have to pass all the phases to implement the course. and I add two loops to the and the model is shown in the organizational aspect, where management, support, administration, and delivery function as shown. I have and outer layer is improving the quality. I've added two loops: completion of objectives, and the second loop, prediction and adaptation. I have disjoint from implementation, also scheduling, and the first loop related to the design of objectives and activities. I will show you later. And the second loop related to the prediction of effects and the adaptive distribution of activity over time. So the second loop is strongly connected with implementation, conducting of the course, when you can modify scheduling and make adaptation of the course based on prediction of achievements. I've used competency-oriented decomposition. Why? Because the competency has value not only for learner, but also for the economy and society, and is widely discussed in Europe and in the world. And our university in Poland also take into account discussion about competences and strong connection between university and society, industry, and so on. So I propose the composition of the didactical process based on competences. First of all, you have to find competences, groups of competences or competences, and scheduling them. Maybe you have several sub-competences which should be then decomposed into courses, into real courses during the study, for example. And in the course you have didactical units which consist of many activities. For example, we have course 1 and didactical unit 1A, and the didactical unit consists of many activities which are shown on drawn in red. And how to compose the didactical unit? I proposed the database which includes components, data which can be used to compose activity, and learning objectives database which consists of many objectives, of course connected with achievements at the end of the course. And the database is three-dimensional structure which consists of objectives in three directions: objective ID. Here we have Bloom taxonomy and Gardner multiple intelligence direction. I will show you on the next slide. And if you have the didactical process decomposed into events or activities and so on, you can simulate the process of learning and forgetting. The process of learning and forgetting, the mathematical description as well as simulation techniques for simulating of such processes were developed by me. I'm an author of that area of interest, and every activity can be shown and its repetition by such like an electronic circuit which models repetitions, this part, and models learning and forgetting. I can't explain you why this schema, this has such a structure. You can read it in my articles, but the schematic, but the structure can be simulated by specialized programs, for example, for electronic system simulation. I also take into account multiple intelligences and achievements in the context of Gardner's theory. If we draw such a very interesting driving, and we put here kinds of intelligences of Gardner theory, and we have many intelligences, 8 intelligences, basic intelligences of Gardner's. We can measure or predict achievements in each direction. These achievements can be measured or predicted in context of Bloom's taxonomy. And if you convert the achievements to the form of such drawings, you can see the profile of achievements in this direction, for example. You see that in direction of knowledge, there is a long bar. So the process is concentrates on knowledge and comprehension, maybe application of we say knowledge, but not on the evaluation. Okay, how to design activities in the context of Bloom's taxonomy, and of course objectives. The individual levels refer to verbs, the verbs representing the intellectual activity at each level. The verbs can help to formulate corresponding objectives, and the reverse process is also possible. So from activities to objectives. And we have a table of many verbs which can be used to classify each activity or objective at the level of Bloom's taxonomy. It has to be said that activities at the high level requires a large amount of work, as it requires abstract thinking. It is common for advanced students. Okay, and now I want to show you results of simulations of which were prepared by me. I want to show you simulation of achievements and workload, prediction of achievements over time, and next activity windows. It means how to predict achievements and how to design more effective didactical process. And here we have a simulation of level of achievements of 3 students. The 3 students with IDs GM, JM, and SA are presented here, and they are picked from my previous presentations, from my previous works, because I have a lot of data, a lot of works and of activities of students, but I wanted the same results, study the same results as in my book, where other aspects of simulation and analysis of simulations were described and studied. And what we can see level of achievements, of course, normalized of 3 students. And first student, you can see that 51% passed the exam. It's okay, but the second and the third student failed the exam and did not pass our course. What we can see? We can see if you want to plan or schedule the new activity or new class, and we want for example, the level of achievements at the 51%, and we can see that there is the range of time where the achievements are above the line 51%. And in this window, the next activity or the next class should be started. And the second and the third student should never start the next class. You can see also that the slope of the lines are different for different students. You can see here peaks. Peaks denotes that they learn, and after learning they forget. If the slope is rises very fast, rises down very fast, it means that the student was not active, or their activity was not enough spread across the time. So schedule was not accurate, or he was not active enough. And on the second printout, we have we can see the workload. The workload is taken from simulation, and it denotes the amount of work spent on activities of all students. As you can see, the third student was not active. He spent, I think, 7 hours studying during the course, but their achievements are better at the moment of exam. But in the long term, their achievements will be forgotten. Yeah. The second example shows how to design didactical process. The peaks denotes classes, and there are two different designs. First design is for first one is shown below here, and the second design has a compressed time. So we have class here, 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 and here. I think I don't remember, but I think it's 2 weeks period, and on the upper line is 1 week period simulation of didactical process. And we can see that the level of achievements is a bit higher for compressed schedule first. And the second, I've modified the didactical design and put into the time small gap, short breaks during the classes, small gap, time gap. And there was 5 minutes gap and 2 minutes gap. Also, the compressed schedule was also modified this way. And what we can see that effectiveness of such modifications and effectiveness of such design is more than classical design, when you spend, for example, 1.5 hours in the class. And if you put, or 35 minutes, if you put small breaks, small gaps during the didactical process, it should increase efficiency. Such results can be found in literature, and the simulation shows that it could be true. Additionally, compressing the scheduling also improves effectiveness, but in the simulation and in the parameters, I didn't not take into account the effect of total forgetting of all materials. Because if you plan, for example, if you have course of 10 hours and you plan 5 hours at the beginning of semester and the next 5 hours at the end of the semester, you will forget everything. It's obvious. Yeah? As you can see on the second derivings, simulated workload is similar for both courses, with normal scheduling and compressed time and compressed scheduling. So we can formulate some results, some conclusions. The result achieved are related to the workload, of course. Long-term achievements depend not only on the amount of effort, but also on the activity. Of course, on the number of repetitions and how they are spread along the time. It's a very big problem. In my other articles, you can find simulations where the schedule was set to achieve predefined level of achievements. Long-term achievements can be assessed based on the slope of the forgetting curve. Introducing a break during classes should increase efficiency. Short breaks are more effective than longer ones. Compressing the schedule of classes should increase efficiency. Based on the simulation, you can determine the maximum start time for the next class, it is the next activity window. Based on the simulation, you can determine which students are not progressing in their studies. So we can find conclusions. The conclusion is that development techniques can help in designing more ergonomic didactical processes and conducting of adaptive learning processes, including modifications which I presented at the beginning of my presentation. Further research will focus on testing of the models. There are many models of learning and forgetting which are published in my other publications, and there is a description of how there is a theory and description of many models which were tested. And the second problem is the identification of models parameters, because the results are very sensitive to input parameters. If you set how the schematic and simulation process were built or designed or developed. Okay.
Thank you. Did you get the answer?
Thank you.
Yeah. Tatiana, you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you for answering this one. And one more question I wondered about was, what limitations of these studies can you identify?
Oh, limitations. First of all, models should be accurate, and organization of didactical process and simulation of didactical process needs right model and right parameters of the models. The models I showed you are very simplified, and the model parameters of the elements depends on the mode. It's a very simplified model. Normally, the model is more complicated, but it would be misunderstandable for people who are not familiar with electronics, for example, or mathematics. So everything seems to be very simple, but in practice is very complicated. I implemented whole systems, for example, simulator of microsystems is my job. Also, a platform for management of didactical process, including e-learning platform, which is the simulator for microsystems is incorporated or connected with the platform, and students, if they use the platform, can simulate their processes. The simulation on the processes is based on activities, different activities, and they give such printouts, which shows their achievements. Okay, and they can adapt their didactical processes to achieve the level of achievements. If he set the level of achievement, we can find the points of repetition of materials of activities that gives such an level of achievements. It's a little bit complicated. It's not so simple as you mean, as you think. I think because the system is very complicated, and the simulations techniques which are implemented are also very advanced, because this simulator is a simulator of microsystems, which means that the simulator can simulate many circuits or equations belonging to many fields of science, for example, chemistry or mechanics or electronics. And I have developed the port of equations to the field of didactic. Okay.
Pavel, sorry, but we are out of time.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We have time for one short question.
Yes.
Is there any?
Please
Okay,
read my
thank
other.
you for this presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we can go to our next presenter. It's yeah, sorry, due to this technical issues, close my program. So now it's a paper, theoretical principles of measuring and interpreting levels of attention, involvement, and organization feedback of students to the educational process using automating software products. Presenter Anastasia Voleniuk. Are you here?
Hello, dear colleagues. I can present, yeah, my presentation.
Yes, please. Can you share your screen and we are here.
This is. You can see? Okay. I'm glad to see you today, and I will today present the articles. The article, this is a result of our common work. The topic of this article is theoretical principles of measuring and interpreting levels of attentions, involvement, and organizing feedback of students to the educational process uses automated software products. And this is articles by Alexander Spivakovsky Левицький, Любов Петухова, Максим Полторацкий, Олександр Лемещук, Анастасія Волянюк, Олена Казанікова, Natalia Воропай, and Svetlana Chepurna. You can see this is a big work team. Today I'm glad to present our result of common work. The structure of my of cognition, theoretical review of the modern model of learning and theories of cognition, overview of modern tools for determining.
It seems that you are switching your microphone accidentally.
What is this is some problem with microphone? Or?
Yeah, sometimes it's switched off, so we can hear some parts. But now we can hear, but be careful, do not switch it.
Okay, we understood. Maybe some problem with technical, sorry. 1 minute. And now you can listen me, yeah?
Yes, now it's good.
Okay, I can continue. And the second part of our presentation today is software tool for analyzing the degree of environment and the degree of information perception and characterization of interpretation of visual markers for measuring students' attention and engagement. Then use of machine learning technology, but is some theoretical question. But we let's start now to study these questions. But it's some very big perspective of our future researchers and really conclusion. In the condition of the informatization of the educational environment, modern teachers face two main tasks, in our opinion. The first, to form the students' internal motivation to acquire knowledge and future professional activity. The second task, improve the skills of information culture and increase the level of digital competences. And we know that these questions start from coronavirus pandemic time, and today in Ukraine, in the war time, this problem really very important questions in educational science. And next task, to develop students' critical thinking. Next, teach how to quickly navigate in a wide flow on information and determine its truth. And last task, to select effective information and communication methods and teaching tools. This is about modern teaching tools and information communication technology too. And next slide. We have identified contradiction, the solution of which will contribute to increase the level of efficiency of the use of technology in the educational process, and in particular in distance and mixed learning formats, because this is the main format today in educational process in educational institutions, different levels, and in university and in school and in other educational institutions. And the first is a contradiction between those who teacher in university or in school, and those who are taught. So this is students or this is pupils in school. And the next, the contradiction between the pedagogical possibilities of information and communication technology and the low level of effectiveness of their use in the educational process. The next is the contradiction between the psychological features of information perceptions by students who constantly interact with information technologies. And we know that this generation has a name Generation Z, and in our article we use term Zoomers because it's better for, in our opinion, than Generation Z for us, for Ukrainians, and traditional contents and methods of learning. The problem of focusing attentions during classes in distance or in mixed format, and the teacher's inability to monitor the level of dynamics of the learner's inclusion in the educational process. And next contradiction is the lack of motivation and low level of self-organization of the students in the process of distant learning, and the impossibility of constant control by the teachers, and the need to conduct it. And next slide is a result of the analysis of the different concepts regarding the peculiarities and education of Zoomers students. We obtain a set of the following psychological characteristics of this generation. You can see in the screen this some main characteristics, and the first is difficult to recognize authorities, and especially don't recognize public opinion, don't listen to the advice of different and other peoples, and advise the adults. Next, to gain experience through their own victories and failures, and freely express their opinion and dissatisfaction. They value their individuality and are afraid to express themselves in different form, and they are looking for themselves and their vocation for a long time, so they are in no hurry to get a job and start a family. And the next feature, this is picky about the condition of their own comfort and open to new impressions and emotions. They are energetic, restless, and inquisitive, and it's difficult for them to work for the interest of the team because they value their own benefits more than team benefits. Yeah, and they are multitasking, but at the same time, a bit apathetic and passive. Zoomers know how to quickly switch and grab information on the fly, and Zoomers they strive for career and personal growth, financial well-being, and this is a result of our analysis of psychological literature, and in result of analysis in pedagogical literature, we have comparative analysis of traditional and distance learning, and you can show this result on the table. And for example, in traditional education, during the evaluation of the students' work, the level of knowledge, skills, and abilities is taken into account. And in distance learning, it can change, and the assessment of applicants is determined only by the level of knowledge, skills, and abilities. In traditional education, visual perception is used much less often than hearing information, but in distance learning and in mixing learning, the visual channel of information transmission is involved. Also, a significant share of audio information. For example, audio recording, video, etc., is not excluded. And in traditional education, the main information carriers are books and abstracts and different maybe paper information, and information is presented in a form familiar to humans, easy to read, but sometimes poorly structured. And in distant learning, the perception of ordinary text information from the screen is much worse than that of printed or handwritten information. And in traditional education, during the learning process, the teachers perform a variety of functions, checking the attendance of the class, presenting the materials, controlling the quality of learning, establishing interdisciplinary connection. And in distant learning, the main workload of the teachers is transferred from the stage of conducting training session to the stage of preparing materials, fulfilling education software, and the teacher acts as a consultant. And today information and communication technologies are increasingly various spheres of education, and this is facilitated by both external factors related to the general computerization of society and the need for appropriate training of different specialists. And in our area, this is teachers of different educational institutions, and as well in internal factors relate to the spread of modern digital technologies and software in schools, the adoption of governmental and intergovernmental program for the computerization of education. And next part of our article, in our opinion, educational software products should meet the following requirements. The first, these products must have a developed system of help and tips for both the teachers and the students. And next, to provide maximum informativeness but minimal user fatigue, and to present the material in the form of separate visual models. Information must be clearly structured, and to ensure that the visual presentation of information matches its content. And you can see on the screen some instrument here. You can use some of them, for example, Zoom Meeting or Zoom and another. And currently, these technologies are gaining wide popularity in the organization of hybrid and semi-hybrid online events. And since the use of this kind of algorithm make it possible to analyze the emotion state, the level of perception.
Your microphone is distant. I mean, your voice is starts to be distant. Maybe you are do not talk into microphone.
Okay, and now.
Thank you. Is it finished, or you have? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah, I have continued. Do you listen me? Okay.
Yeah. Now it's good.
I don't know what is this problem. Okay, and the next slide. You can see the instrument emotion cues and the main features of this instrument. For example, to obtaining the emotional status of all people in the video stream, and obtaining the emotional status of the individual video stream, and the ability to create emotional portraits of different people, result with further aggregation for deeper analysis. and general analysis of the emotional components of the entire audience, and analyzes the emotional components of the specific chosen person. And in addition, it's important to note that this software product provides an opportunity to build an emotional picture and level of interest both for the entire audience and separately for certain selected participants. And another instrument, this is Headroom. This is automatical complication makes it possible to generate a video with the most vivid moment of the meeting. And it can analyze facial expression and audio accompanying the online event, and text messages of this online event. And another instrument, this is Meeting Pulse. You can show the screenshot of this instrument now, and this software can be integrated with the following services, with WebEx, with Microsoft Teams, with Zoom, YouTube, and another. And during the presentation, participants of listeners can react in real time to what was said. In addition, the speakers can watch the pulse of the room. And in result of this analysis, we have some requirement for the software products, and you can see on the screen, for example, integration with the MAID system, because we use some instrument in our work, and the possibility of building an emotional portrait, building of emotional portrait at the level of interest of the virtual conference, and possibility to comparative analysis of received analytical information, and possibility to cluster information by gender and by age, the ability to create survey, for example, display poll before the start on the video conference, or synchronously with the conference display, or after the conference. The next is access to the chat in parallel with conference, export of result, sending invitation to the relevant online event, creation of the interactive board or for interaction of a participant, and creation of the appropriate for using interaction of third-party services. And we have a result some psychological research, because we have a great work to determine the external signs of attention. For example, a fixed interested look, looking in the speaker's eyes, facial muscle tension, slightly shifted eyebrows to the bridge of the nose, slightly squinted eyes, and another positive attention, external signs of attention. And also we have some negative, this is opposite concept of attention, and we have these external signs too. For example, the rubbing the cheek with the hand, or wandering gaze, looking to the side, head rubbing, touching the ear, supporting the chin with the palm of the hand, lowers eyelid or takes off glasses, taping with the finger or pen, plays with object with fingers, and another. And we draw this attention to the fact that all visual signs are arranged in order from the most significant to additional. extra ones. And 1 second. We have some perspective of our research. For example, this is a use of machine learning technology, and in our opinion, the main driving force behind video stream analysis in the use of machine learning methods and algorithms. And we distinguish two main parts. The first part is algorithms that can identify formalized visual markers from a video stream, and second part, this is algorithms that can determine the level of interest of the audience, of the degree of perception of information. And in our opinion, machine learning methods, we solve two main problems. Automated selection of visual factors from the video stream, analysis of the influence of the researched factors of the attentions of the conference participants, and some additions. This is aggregation and further interpretation of further results. And about conclusions, we reviewed the main artificial intelligence-based tools that allow to access the audience attention level in real time during online conferences on stream, video stream of every conferences, and among them emotion cues, headroom, and meeting pools. And these tools allow you to analyze the emotional component of the audience in sufficient detail and effectively, but not all of them can be integrated with popular online conference services such as Microsoft Teams or Zoom, and they also don't allow you to analyze the video stream in real time. That is why there is a need to develop a specialization software products, and that will allow to have full access of the level of audience engagement based on the emotional component, and can also be integrated with services for conduction online meeting. And we identified two main requirements for the software products, describe the visual markers for measuring students' attention and engagement. Also, we have to the conclusion that the main technology for the development of this product is the methods of algorithms of machine learning. And the main our perspective today to create some product what can to be in with this result and with these different components, and this is first stage of our researchers, and the first stage, maybe underground, of our future work with for create this product. And today, thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, we can speak about it.
Thank you for reading your presentation for us. It was interesting. Can you please, in short words, summarize the scientific contribution of this your work?
The most important in our work that we have a theoretical underground of a future product who what can to allow us to monitor some visual markers and to monitor some markers of engagement and environment of in the time of student, in the time of different lessons, and in real time, in time of conference, we will can with these products in future to have some statistic information about environment and engagement of our students in some conference.
Thank you for your answer. And I wonder what you will do if not everyone will switch on their cameras, because in Ukraine usually people do not. Well, sometimes they do, but usually they don't switch on cameras.
Yes, I know, and now it's a really big problem because some students not use their cameras because they not want, but some students cannot to use cameras because have some technical problem and etc. But in our university, we have main requirements to the our Zoom video conferences with students in the educational process to have camera, and this is underground of our future research in the using our products, because without camera we cannot to tell about interest of these people to our lessons and to conference and etc. Maybe person can off camera off and go to another room, and this is information for us that this person haven't environment and haven't engagement.
Thank you. Vadim has a question, please.
Thank you. Just to follow up the previous question, I do wonder if such a requirement for your students to switch on their cameras, isn't it a blatant violation of academic and personal freedom?
It's a really big problem with students because they have different reasons of camera off. But in our lessons, we motivate them to camera on, and our academics, our workers work with on camera. And it can also motivate our students to speak with us with the camera, and we can to see their face. And but maybe it's difficult because this is not face-to-face communication, but it's some way to speak with them the more reality, but in this in mixed or in distant format, this is really difficult, and this is a very important question with problem I can say with we work now and all time of distance education.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions? No? Anyone questions? No, thank you then.
Thank you
for your presentation, and we can conclude our session now. Thank you.
гривень за рік навчання.